O meu lugar é caminho de orgulho santo. Lá tem céu até de manhã, uma ginga em cada mão. O meu lugar é cercado de luta e suor, esperança num mundo melhor e cerveja pra comemorar. O meu lugar tem seus mitos de seres de luz, é bem perto de... Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Aspire Beast Council. I am Charles Clark, your real estate investment broker, here with another bright idea. Thank you for joining me. Let me turn this down. Thank you for joining me for another Aspire Beast Council, where we're going to analyze a deal and show you what something is a good deal or not a good deal, and how you can improve your analyzing so that you can move forward with your real estate investing, right? A lot of people struggle with how to analyze deals and things of that nature. So I'm gonna give you some pointers, framework, so that you can start analyzing more deals and getting more deals done. First and foremost, this is brought to you by Aspire, the mastermind group. We have our monthly meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, May 13th, here at Next Home My Way headquarters, 5151 South Howell Avenue. First visit is free. Anything after that, you do have to pay a fee of $29 to join the Aspire Mastermind group. You can join it by going to our school to sign up. You can also reach out to us on Facebook, and you can also find our YouTube channel. With that being said, this is also brought to you and sponsored by Next Home My Way, the real estate brokerage where I currently have my license and my team raise the standard with them. Big shout out to Angel, Jose, and Carlos, the leadership at Next Home My Way, that allows me to put this webinar on every Tuesday at lunchtime in our amazing studio here at our headquarters. So if you are an agent or someone interested in getting their real estate license or possibly moving your business, please consider Next Home My Way. They are making some moves, and recent real estate business, Next Home My Way, Next Home was bought out by EXP. So a lot of exciting things are happening here at Next Home My Way. We are a full-blooded franchise with a home base. We also have a franchise in Lake Mary, Florida. So we have 2 offices that is under Next Home My Way. With that being said, Raise the Standard Real Estate is my team under Next Home My Way, where I am, building all the things that I'm doing, which is investor focused real estate. So pretty much what I try to accomplish is work with all investors who are trying to build up their real estate portfolio. My motto is I don't help you buy a property, I help you buy a business. It just so happens to be a property. That is the mindset that I try to take with every client that I have. And we use the value system of Raise the Standard. If the deal is not better for my client, their family, myself, my family, and the community, it's a deal that we don't want to do. We want a win-win-win situation for the client, us, and the community, because there's no point of buying a property and not improving it and making it better for the community, and you're just trying to pull out resources. So we are a very value-driven organization that is not just about investing in real estate and extracting assets and not putting anything back into the community. With that being said, let's jump into it. Um, Aspire Beast Council. So, what is the Aspire Beast Council? So, building the Aspire Mastermind Group, uh, where we come together as investors to communicate, gain knowledge and build relationships to further our goal to aspire to having a real estate investment operation. Um, the whole point of Aspire was building an investor ecosystem in southeastern Wisconsin so that we can help other investors build it up. Investing becomes a solo game, in so to speak, because people think they're on their own trying to build these things up. And one of the things that I realized being a real estate broker and becoming an investor was that I realized that this is not a solo game. This is a team sport, and a lot of books out there would make you think that you need to do these all on your own. You know, Getting in deals. A lot of people have a um, discomfort with getting deals with other people, and one of the things that I try to help build is help them understand that everything is built with OPM, which is other people's money. So there's not a deal you ever go in that you're by yourself, because at the end of the day, even when you have the down payment, you're going into a bank to go get their money. You're in partnership. You have a business relationship with that bank. So to go and find another individual to raise funds from so you can go get another deal done is the same situation, but we built it in our head that that individual is different than the bank, when at the same time that bank relationship is structured by the agreement you have with each other, and that is the same thing that you will do with other individuals. So one of the things that I try to truly um, get to is to help individuals understand that you can't do this by yourself. You need a team. And even if that team is hired on a contract basis where you only work with them, for example, me, right? I help investors purchase real estate. So I am on their team during that process of buying that real estate. And once that real estate is purchased, I am no longer on that team, so to speak, right? And so part of what I do is I try to stay on that team, right? And I try to articulate to our investors of, hey, the sooner I help you get this business slash property up and running, functioning, and improve, right? Because if most of the clients I work with, they do the BRRRR method or the value add. The sooner we get that up and running and that value added to that property, now we can turn around, get it refinanced, pull that money out, and go get the next deal. So that is the goal of mine when I am working with my clients, is to help them understand that the sooner they treat this like a business, a full-fledged business, and not an entrepreneurship, the sooner they will be able to grow their business and actually get more deals done. And that's part of what the Aspire Beast Council is. It's a program that I created using the Aspire Mastermind Group coming into play, in the sense of what were we trying to accomplish with the Aspire Mastermind Group is to try to help individuals grow their business, help them aspire to, living a life of financial freedom, being able to live the life that they desire by using real estate. So through that, I built this calculator, which I call the Aspire Beast Council, that incorporates all those things. So all the beast on there is different levels that you go through the Aspire Mastermind Group, which we start off with Lion. He goes through Bull, Dragon, and then the final and ultimate phase is the Phoenix. And the Phoenix is, you know, has syndication, has multiple units under portfolio, is doing the things that are necessary to provide um, a business structure that pays for their life, right? one of our leaders on our team, he has 67 units. He homeschool his kids. He does a lot of the things on his own, but he's running a syndication business and real estate investment. And he did it through all real estate. He had a 9 to 5, and then he eventually got to a point where he was able to let that go because he's getting paid property managing those units. So that is the goal that we try to push people towards when they're part of the Aspire Mastermind group, and give individuals that um, camaraderie to have someone hold them accountable to get them to the next level. And the Aspire Beast Council kind of gives you a framework that you can follow when you're analyzing deals. So two things that I want to try to accomplish here is to give you some structure on how to analyze a deal. And one is figuring out your number, because if you don't know your number, you can't analyze any deals. And then two is using this framework so that you can create a funnel so you know what the next step should be, right? Because most of the things you do with real estate investing, it should be a funnel to lead you to the next situation that you're trying to get to, right? So I like to call it reverse engineering, but reverse engineering is figuring out your number. Once you figure out your number, then you can analyze deals, which then once you know your number, now you can go analyze the deal. And then if the deal meets your number, then you know to go to the next step, which is either go look at the property or you write an offer on it. So um, to start out reverse engineering. So what is reverse engineering? Reverse engineering is, what are you trying to ultimately accomplish, right? Someone can say, for example, I'll take me. I want I want to have 524 units. I believe my number is around 77,000 a month. That is going to bring me to I believe my number is 944,000 a year. I believe that's the number, because I wanted to be funny about everyone has a number of they want to make $1 million a year. I felt like, well, what if my number is right under 1 million? Would I still be happy? And so that kind of brought me to that number of 524 units times 150 a door will get me to that. So that's how I did it. And so then reverse engineering was, break it down to something similar. So what I initially wanted to do was, hey, I want to make 5,000 a door. Um, 5,000 a door. Um, let me just use a quick calculator here. So I just use that. So if I want 5,000 a door divided by 150, that's 33 doors, right? Roughly 33.3. So that's 34 doors that I need. Now I know how to analyze the deal, and now I know my first goals, right? It's getting to 33 doors. That might sound like a lot, but hey, that can happen in a very small time. I got to a 8 unit, 4 unit, and then a duplex. So that was 14 units within 2 years. So within 2 years, I got halfway to that number already. So it's not that is so far off. It's just, it gives you something to start reaching towards, right? It gives you something to start aspiring to. And so that is our goal. Our goal is to aspire to the things that we want in life, and using real estate to accomplish those goals. So let's get started in the sense of, how do we use Aspire? So Aspire is an acronym that I came up with using ChatGPT and other things of what framework that we need to analyze the deal. So A is for asset/address. That is the asset. That is the address that we're going to be analyzing. That's the premise of the deal, right? And in that, with the asset address, you're getting all that information, all the characteristics of it, any information that you have off top, and what you might think the exit should be, right? So the property that we're going to analyze today is, I'm going to put it under a BRRRR situations, but it could be the fix and flip, right? It could be a buy and hold. It could be a wholesaling. you kind of want to know what you think, how you're going to exit, um, because you want to kind of know what type of deal you're looking at when you're looking at that deal, right? So S is seller situation. Who owns it, right? And why are they selling? So like knowing that has a lot to do with how you're analyzing a deal, because if it's a distressed property and it's a client, it's a seller who, this is their only property and they're just trying to get rid of it. Well, you're going to approach them differently than if it's an LLC who's trying to sell it. You're going to approach it differently if it's in an auction. You're going to approach it differently if it's a bank that owns it. So there's different ways you approach the property once you understand who's selling it and why. P is for purchase price or purchase assumptions. Try to go with both, right? Purchase price is what the current seller is trying to sell it for, and then the purchase assumption is what you feel like you need to sell it for, and hopefully they're close, or not, you can kind of come to an understanding, right? So purchase price is already on the market, it's been sitting for 60 days, and then price assumption is, hey, I think this is where it needs to sell it, why I believe it's still sitting on the market. I is for improvement. um, uh, so yeah, improvement is, or an investment, is what you need to do to the property to actually make it better. So typically, everything that I look at or my clients look at is something that needs improvement, right? Because we're looking for the force appreciation type of deals, right? We want to recycle our capital. So we need to improve that property so that we are able to pull money out. R is for revenue, right? That's either cash flow from rentals, or that is the revenue from a fix and flip, the profit that you get from selling the property and what's remaining after you pay off all expenses. And then E, it's kind of like going back to the beginning, right? Reverse engineering. What is the actual exit? Based off all these things, what is the true exit strategy for this, right? So you might have went in there thinking you're going to do a um, fix and flip, and lo and behold, when you get to the end, they say, you know what, the best use of this situation is actually making a burr. That actually happened with me and one of my clients. A deal that happened, I had it with one client. They had a number in their head and they were stuck on it and wanted to get out of the deal because they found some things at the inspection that they thought they could lower their price. The other client didn't want to lower their price. They felt they were at their good threshold. They wanted to back out of the deal. I felt like that was the wrong thing to do. So I found one of my other clients, gave them the deal and said, hey, I really feel like this is a fix and flip opportunity. This is where the margins, this is where I think it should be. However, if it doesn't work that way, I think it can also be a burr where you can rent it out, um, refinance it, pull money out, and go get your next deal. Well, that ended up happening. We started the process as we were going through it, fixing and flip it. We also realized that, hey, um, some of the properties that are selling at the higher mark has two baths. This only has one, but there is an area in the basement where we can add a half bath to help us get a little bit closer. Ended up doing that. That took a little bit longer, and that kind of shifted when we were going to put it on the market. And so we felt like the best move was to shift it to a buy and hold, which we ended up renting out very quickly, very easily. He was able to take that new lease to the bank and pull some of the money out. I believe he had to leave around maybe 15 or 20% left in the deal, but he was able to pull out 80% of his money that was just, would have been sitting in there. But he was able to pull that money back out to go get the next deal. And he's currently looking for another deal. So those are things that you need to do when you're looking at different deals and, the exit strategy that you're going with, right? So with that being said, let's get into it. So this is Aspire Beast Council. As I said, it's a ChatGPT calculator. We are looking at some other AI tools to present this calculator with, but this is where we originally built it. I am currently working on building out an app with Claude to use with the calculator. So we are in steps of bringing this out to the masses, but right now this is an internal tool that we're using with our Aspire members and select individuals that I choose to help me work through, the bugs of it or just working through it using it. So as you can see, it's a disciplined real estate underwriting authority that evaluates deals using fixed rules, conservative assumptions, binary rulings. It enforces capital protection, kill switches, and governs grades secure to scoring to decide one thing: does the deal survive or fail? So at the end of the day, obviously it's going to go off of the information you give it. It will try to pull things from the internet to fill in any gaps that you don't give. But at the end of the day, it is going to provide you with the information needed to run the analysis on this deal. So we'll start first. You click on a button and you say, bring me a deal. I'm issuing a council ruling. I have to let everyone know I am a licensed broker in the state of Wisconsin. So what I tend to try to do is I try not to pull any deals from that's currently on the market because I don't want any backlash from other individuals who say that I think they're priced wrong or anything of that nature from that standpoint. So what I try to do is find deals that are already closed and kind of, run it from analysis from that standpoint of what it should be and things of that nature. So it's going to ask a couple questions: property address, market area, asset type, beds, baths, square footage, year built, current condition, intended strategy, if ended. So I am going to drop in this address, which is 1009 South 61st Street in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Uh-oh. We're having some issues here. Uh-oh. Let's start all over. All right. We're having an issue here, and this is part of technology. I don't know what's happening here. All right. I might have to just enter this information in, which again is not a big deal because I can speak some of this stuff in there, and the other stuff I can just speak on. So the property address is 1009 South 61st Street in West Allis, Wisconsin, 53214. The asset type is a duplex. It has a 3-and-1 up and down. The square footage of the entire property is 1,994. The year that it was built was 1963. The current condition is moderate, but probably needs some updates. Intended strategy is that this is supposed to be a BRRRR. Currently on the market for $325,000. It's moving a little slow here, but we got it going. All right, it put the information in there. So the asset address is it put everything in there: 3 bedroom, 1 bath, upper, 3 bedroom, one lower, 1994. Year built 1963, moderate update, require intended strategies. The Burr current asking price 325. Um, so it's also, going over, and this is why I like this calculator. The calculator is the premise is not just dumping numbers in there, but actually having a conversation, because I think deals are a story, right? Most people come in and say now, like, things is a story, but I truly feel like each property has its own story. It has its own, flow of what it was and what it's trying to be, right? So, um, that is so much better of just saying 1,000 rent and it popping out this number and not understanding all the nuance of what's going on, and saying something is a good deal or bad deal just based off just flat out numbers. And I think that's a disservice for each property and what you're trying to ultimately accomplish, because we have to stop looking at deals at these individual deals. That each deal is a piece of the puzzle to your portfolio, and they all play a part, right? And so if you look at it from that standpoint, you're not going to just look at these as just one-off deals, but they're part of something bigger, and they're part of a story, right? They're part of the story of your portfolio. So now we're going to go on the seller situation. So again, let me pull up some of the information that I can find off of that. So the property has been listed, we're going to say 4 days at this point. It's tenant occupied on one side. The seller motivation is that they purchased this in 2024. They did some updates and they bought it for 299,000. So I'm seeing that they're trying to do a quick turnaround on trying to get some value out of the property at 325. So it looks like they are wanting to reposition this. They probably went in, from the pictures that I see, there was some updates, um, just minor. It looks like they just cleaned out some stuff, put some new carpet in, and painted. No price reduction, no any known issues. I'm assuming that there's probably some deferred maintenance from the water heater or furnace, and possibly roof. Yep. So, I mean, all these things are like, again, like, why would someone purchase it in 2024? And then again, this was on the market last year in 2025. So that was a quick turnaround. So they're easily bought this for 299. They're trying to turn around and make what this is a 40, $40,000 increase, right? Making some extra money, things of that nature. Not really doing much. Going in there might do some painting and things like that, and then turn around and put it back on the market. Um, Again, I think there was cosmetic repositioning, did some things to it to try, put, five, $10,000 into it to turn around and make 40. Hey, if you can do it, I get it. I don't necessarily agree with it always, but I totally understand it. The spread risk is a 26,000 spread between seller acquisition and current acts rarely leaves sufficient room for, right? So they bought it at 299. Now they're at 325. Um, there's not a lot of room there, right? So basically, you know, if it needs to go below 299, it's probably not going to happen because of where they bought it, right? They're not going to lose money. Um, I think there's probably a roof, furnace, water heater, because they, if you bought it at 299 and you updated those things, I don't think it's going to happen. The previous person owned it since 2009, So the likelihood of them doing that quick turnaround and trying to make money off of it and investing in those things is less likely. Now, the original owner who sold it in 2009 probably did some things between, the 2009 purchase. Um, yeah, 2009 to 2024. So, right, the time between there, that's 15 years. I had to assume that individual uh, did some things to that property because they bought it originally at 163, sold it at 299. I'm assuming that they probably did some things, updated. So those things might go away from the mechanical on the roof. I'm assuming that some of those things probably was taking place. Um, so let's go here. Target price right now is they have it on the market at 325,000. Estimated closing costs, let's put it at 3%. Financing structure, let's use a DSCR loan. Let's say down payment is around 15%. Let's say we can get away with an interest rate at 7%. Estimated holding period, let's give us a 3 to 5 period with the DSCR loan where we're going to refinance out of it. We need to make some improvement. I believe the rehab, because it was out to date, maybe some things need to be done. We'll use a moderate rehab budget to just update the kitchens, the bathrooms, and any light fixtures or anything of that nature that needs to be done, and run a estimated rehab of a moderate rehab with those things fixed in and incorporate that into our price assumptions. Again, this is part of the reason why I like using ChatGPT and now this calculator instead of just inputting stuff. It's gonna pull things for me to make it more feasible and make it more relatable. Again, I can have this conversation with it instead of me just putting numbers in there that I might not know, but it'll come up with something so that it makes it a little bit more feasible for me to understand. All right, so we got 325. We got closing costs 3%. We got around 9,750. We want to do a DSCR loan, 15% down payment. We're at a 7% interest rate. Holding period is 3 to 5 years. Rehab scope moderate, so we're at about a 40 to 65,000. We got a 10% embedded into the rehab budget, so that's going to either be 44,000 or 71.5. And we're going to stabilize for BRRRR exit. So now this is a longer one, right? So typically BRRRRs that I want to do, I want to BRRRR it out within the 6 to 18 months. That's the most ideal, especially if we're dealing with hard money. This is being a DSCR loan. We're going to be probably using our own cash on that one because DSCR loans don't allow you to really put a rehab budget in there where they'll give you a loan. That's more for hard money. So purchase price 325, closing cost 9,000, rehab midpoint is 52.5. Initial cash reward is, cash required is 111,000. Estimated loan amount is 276. DSCR loan stress test. Again, like this is helping you understand all these things that you might not understand knowing forward. So, right, this is part of the reason why I like this, especially for new individuals that are trying to learn, trying to understand how some of these things work to gain some more knowledge. So a debt pricing, duplex near 325, combined rents near or above 3,600, 4,000, stable occupancy and control rehab costs to survive refinance standards conservatively. If actual market rents are materially below that range, the BR strategy may fail, which I believe so, because current rents right now, the one they had in there was 1,000. But I'm going to be putting that into the next one. So council also knows that 50% down on DSCR structure is thinner refinancing flexibility, right? Because typically we want to try to pull out 75%. So if we're already putting only 15% down, it's going to make it a little bit harder. BRRRR success depends heavily on post-rehab rent support and refinance valuation, not just cosmetic improvements alone. So the council cannot yet validate ARV, DSCR, cash on cash return, or refinance survivability. So now we need to know this, right? Um, so I'm just going to put some assumptions in here, but that's where we're going to go. Using the moderate rehab, we're just going to say 55,000, and that's just because we do feel like the roof was updated, the furnace was dealt with. We do need to replace the water heaters. There probably need to be some updated with the electrical and some plumbing. We are going to be updating the kitchen, both kitchens, both bathrooms, updating um, updating any electrical but outlets, but light fixtures, any of those things to make it more presentable and rentable. Um, Basement is just going to be normal basement, but is in decent condition. And there is parking out back, but we're not going to do anything. And probably update the landscaping a little bit. There is one tenant, but we're hoping that we can fix one of the units and then move that tenant into that next unit to go start fixing the other one. Hopefully, worst case scenario, we will have to move the tenant out within 3 to 6 months so that we can fix up both units at the same time. Right. So not much in there that was numbers, right? But we already kind of came to that conclusion that we're probably going to spend around 55,000 in there. I gave it some more update stuff, so we found that the 55,000 rehab is reasonable but tight because we're doing 2 kitchens, 2 bathrooms, electrode updates, plumbing corrections, and turnover contingencies. So we're still in that 55 to $70,000 range. The shuffle execution risk. I've done this before where you're fixing on one unit. You let everyone know in the building, hey, we're going to be raising rents. We're fixing up this other unit. Do you want to move in the other unit? Because we're going to be coming to yours. So it's eventually that, you either can move out or, deal with the fact that you're going to have a property which is going to be updated and you're going to be paying rent, right? So an updated, your rent increase, right? We are in business, guys, and understand that some people feel some type of way that you don't want to raise rents on people, but unfortunately, when you are buying things that at cost at times, well, you're buying things where the value, you need to add value to it so that you can cover your expenses. This is what happens, right? I think sometimes people get the assumption that landlords are just raising the rent just to raise the rent, which is just not true, right? They're doing it for a reason, because they want to cover their expenses and they want to make money, right? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I lost it. Oh, crap. Let's see if I can get it back here. There we go. Uh-oh. That is not it. All right, here we go. I love these things. Oh, it's saying that it wasn't even done. All right, here we go. We're having some issues here. Let's see if we can do this again. Okay, we are definitely having some issues here, but we're gonna finish this out, and we're gonna finish out strong. So I'm going. All right. So I gotta print some stuff off here, but as I continue moving forward, again, like some of these, you have these issues, right? And you're depending on um, certain tools, right? And this is the problem, right? You can have when using electronical tools to help you accomplish the goals that you're trying to accomplish, um, right? Uh, so we're gonna We're going to start this over. We're going to see if we can get this to be used. Boom. So we're going to do that. I am going to get comparable analysis. So again, same stuff is going to give us a little bit more information because I uploaded the MLS. Again, if you're an aspiring investor out there, find your agent, right? That's one of the first two things you should do. You find your lender, go get pre-approved or find out what your pre-approved status is. And then two, go find you a broker or / agent, right? Because we have access to information that you might not have. You can also use, like, I know Deal Machine or any of those wholesaling applications out there that can assist you in this. So I'm having to use the same information that we kind of already had. Which, is going through that right now. So obviously, this one has days on the market 24, right? Original list price was 325. It's sold at 310. So I was right, right? So I was right with how that situation ended up being, for the simple fact that it was overpriced. So again, this is after the fact. Now it's going to approach this deal a little bit differently now, because now it's going to treat it like it's back on the market, because it recently sold, and now it's kind of like, well, why is this back here right now? What's going on? So that's kind of what it's going to do at this point. So at the price assumption, I can kind of tell it. Price assumption, intended purchase price, unknown. Financing type, we're going to use a DSCR loan. Estimated down payment is going to be 15%. Estimated interest rate will be 7%. Closing cost estimate is 3%. Expecting holding period is between 3 and 5%. And there's no lender fees. Uh-oh. Let's try this one more time. Intended purchase price unknown. Financing type, we're going to use a DSCR loan. Estimated down payment is going to be 15%. Estimated interest rate is going to be 7%. Closing costs is 3%. Estimated holding period is between 3 and 5 years. There's no any lender fees or points known. All right. So now that we have that, so we can't calculate MAO, which is maximal acceptable offer. We're still working on DSCR, cash on cash return, total investment. So, right. So recent sold comp in package is 310. Estimated current gross rents are likely 2,400. West Dallas taxes are elevated relative to rent profile. 15% down on DS financing material, increased payment pressure at 7%. Taxes $390 a month. Insurance estimate is $125. Maintenance vacancy is 10%. DSCR service at 310. Purchase price likely becomes compressed. So it's giving you more information. Like, okay, this is gonna make this deal kind of hard, right? So it's letting us know that based off this stuff, like it's starting to break down of, hey, this is what I think is going to be the best outcomes. Now, if you can make this an owner occupied house hack, that might make it more feasible. Burrs Light, creative financing is number 4, and flip or wholesale is completely out of the question almost. Now, Alpha Lion. So again, this is where it's sharing with you information on the level where you are with the information that you're giving it, right? Just because we're giving it some information is giving us some of that improvement. Estimated rehab, we believe, is going to be around 55,000 to 70,000. We need to update both bathrooms, both kitchens, put some flooring in kitchen and bathroom, update the fixtures, possibly need to update the water heaters, and that is it. So now we got that coming. I am going to, oops, that's not what I'm trying to do. All right, we're gonna go to the rental. We're gonna say this is a rental report. Because that's what we need for the next one. So I'm actually gonna pull out. So 55 to 70,000, 2 bedrooms, right? So it's telling us all that information, the rehab, roof age, furnace age, cellar lateral condition, electrical panel capacity, plumbing stack condition, foundation integrity, window lifespan, right? So it's just giving us other things that you need to take in consideration that, as a new investor, you might not realize these things that you need to take part of, right? So this is just giving you more of that information that'll help you run this more efficiently. We're going to conserve, they had the rehab at 70,000. I think that's a lot. But where it at, I think that could update the property very much and then give it a better rehab. So let's just go with it, right? Let's just see what happens if it's at that. So I'm gonna put in the rental report. I'm gonna say run R and then move to E. So it's gonna take this information and give us the background that it wants. So second lease amount remains unverified. Current estimated in place gross income is $2,400 a month. The uploaded rental report analyzed 32 comparable 3-bedroom, 1-bath half. Average rent is $1,562. Medium is $1,697. So renovated is between $1,500 to $1,700. Stabilized rent is $15. Total gross 31. Gross annual is 37. Right. So vacancy. So again, these helping you, like, so if you never did any of this, it's kind of giving you say, hey, we need to put vacancy reserve 7%. Anything could be, I would say 3 to 10. Repairs, maintenance, same thing, 3 to 10. Capital expenditures, I would say 5 to 10. Property management, same difference, 5 to 10. Taxes is $4,600 annually. Insurance is $1,800 annually. That could be a little bit higher. Preliminary DSCR signal. So it's kind of like already preparing you, like, hey, remains material below post rehab values, stabilized rents are achieved, rehab scope avoids major structural expansion. So like they're kind of letting us know, like, hey, this might be difficult to do based off the information that we have right now, right? So it's kind of letting us know, hey, there might be some struggle here of helping you getting that, deal from that standpoint. So preliminary ARV stabilized value, right, is 340 to 385. That's going to be a struggle, right? So right now, it's flagging some revenue upside exists. It's not a lot of cash flow. The taxes can really interrupt a lot of what's going on here. So we're going to go into exit strategy. So for us to do that, I need to solidify what the ARV might be. So I'm going to give it the CMA that I ran. So I'm going to tell it, please use this report as the CMA to help you with the ARV to help stabilize what the ARV value will be, which will allow you to help with the maximum acceptable offer. This should also help with the full underwriting of the deal so that we can move forward. So now it's going to take the CMA, right, and go through the different type of properties, right? So we have properties from 269 all the way to 350, right? So already purchasing at 310 and then saying we're going to put 70,000 in it, obviously that's not going to work, right? So I can tell you right there that we already are over it, right? And then you can kind of tell why I initially said the things that I said with it purchasing at 299, them trying to sell it for 325, knowing that we got to put some money into it is probably not going to look well. I think we're probably over with the 70,000 in rehab, but let's find out what it says based on those things, right? Conservative stabilized is 330. They believe there could be between 335 and 355, and aggressive is 365, right? That means we're the best property in that location. Well, if we put 70,000 in it, I guarantee you that's probably what's going to happen, right? So the rehab budget is 77, down payment, interest rate, closing costs. This is what stabilized rent will be, vacancy, taxes, insurance, and property management, right? Always put your property management in there, because even if you're paying someone else eventually, or you're paying yourself, you need to pay yourself, right? And you need to take that money out so you know the accurate cost, right? So already right here, we know that this deal is not going to be done because it's already bought at 310, right? So based off our numbers, this is the maximum number that we could offer that property is 235. Now it's saying that we could get between 236 and 255 and still make, acceptable return. But 256, 275, we're at a thin margin, and anything above 275, the deal doesn't work. So 310 plus 77 plus carrying costs, this is just doesn't make sense. So they're now giving an example of, hey, if you actually bought this at 250, had the rehab at 77, closing costs 7,500, you're all in 334,000. So it's telling you where it needs to work for a DSCR loan: 235, 250, 275, and 310. Obviously, most DSCR loans, they want you at 1.12, or some of them want you at 1.2. So really right here is 250, 235 to 250 is where your magic number is based on this situation, right? Cash flow, $450 a month. Now we're basically breaking even at 275. We needed 250 to make some money. So again, reverse engineering, this allows you to say, oh, this is a good deal, right? Because if now I know that I need to make at least $150, then I already know where the deal needs to be to make that happen, right? So that is what you need to go off of that's why I have my clients reverse engineering. Where do you want to end up? What is our first stage? What is our first threshold? What do you want to make a month, right? Okay, based on that a month, how many doors do we need to get that, right? And so now, because I had that 150, right, my number, I can say, okay, if I don't buy this at 250, this deal doesn't work, right? So I need to try at 235, and my maximum number is 250, or I walk, right? And if I can't get at that deal, then I walk. There's no hard feelings. They shouldn't be upset because I put a low offer in, and I can't be upset if they're saying like this is the number I need. I know what number I need. It's this. There's nothing emotional about this. There's no reason to get up in arms or feel some type of way, because this is all numbers based, right? If the numbers don't make sense, then we don't move forward, right? So now at buy and hold, it's a green light, it's a bird light at that number. Well, we already know their number is higher, and so it's not going to work, right? So that's why the council verdict saying is an X, right? Saying it's rock or sand, and the reason why we put rock or sand is that you're building on a rock or you're building on sand, and if you're building on sand, it's a no go. And the council score is 58 out of 100. So we score 5 different levels of information that we give you, and it breaks it all down. So like what the council supports is strong rental demand, a functional duplex layout, rent upside after renovation, stable tenant class neighborhood, and reasonable cosmetic rehab scope. Right. What the council flags is DSCR, it's market price, elevated property tax, limited refinance spread, unknown mechanical risk, moderate over improvement risk. Right. The other beauty of this is the council also tells you what it needs you to kind of do to try to make this a go, right? It doesn't necessarily say, oh, the number doesn't work, move on. It's like, okay, if you want this project to work, you need to change it. Don't be the person to, I need to force this property to work and I'm going to just move forward with where we are. No, you need to make some adjustments to make sure that this works for you, right? So lower acquisition basis, reduce rehab scope, which I believe I think we can probably take 20, even maybe 30% off of that rehab. Verify post-rehab rent comps, right? Just make sure that, hey, can we get the 1,500 out of this with the reduced amount in the rehab budget? Okay, and now it gives you retrade directive, right? Okay, let's try to acquire this at 235. Let's put the offer in, and then that boosts up our score to 84, right? Reduce rehab budget, which I think you can, to 60,000, which then now you can acquire it at 250, right? Increase variables rents. Can we try to get 1750? What would be stopping us? Then we can acquire it at 255 or less, right? And that gives us 80. And then seller concessions. Can the seller help us to get in between those marks? So I'm going to what is the council score made of, and can you break it down for us? And then I'm just going to leave off on this, because I love, and this is the main thing that we try to do with Aspire Mastermind, is that we always want to be doing something. We always want to be being better, right? That's one of my mottos: be better by being better. We always want to keep improving. We always want to keep moving forward. We never want to stay stuck. Even if there's a bad deal, we run analysis and it didn't work. Is there something we could do? Like if you feel like this deal really makes sense, like what can we do to try to make it happen, right? It's telling you, do not acquire above 255 without revised underwriting, right? So like if it's 310, okay, what do we need to do? Like, is the seller going to hold, right? Is the seller going to hold a note to allow us to do that? Verify the rents, right? Utility responsibilities. Is there anything else? Can we rebuild the rehab scope? Can we change it? We got one tenant in there. Can we fix one up now and then fix the other one later, and then, attack it from that standpoint? And then it says beast mode assignment, build a refi acquisition model at 235, 250, and 265, and, change the rehab, right? And that should change things. So like, it doesn't necessarily just leave you where you're just like, okay, off to the next one. We can do some things. So this is what the council score is made of, and this is what it's breaking down. It gave us 12 of 25. What the council measured is deal margin strength, right? Is acquisition basis versus stabilized value, rehab adjusted spread, cash flow, refinance, and exit profitability. Why the score was reduced? The council finds current market evidence points toward retail level pricing, right? It's telling you, hey, this is what anyone on the market would buy it. So if anyone on the market is going to buy it, you don't want to buy it because you're an investor and you're not a retail purchase. Some of these deals, if you're going to own or occupy, you kind of you're dangling on two lines of you're being an owner and you're also being an investor, right? So you can kind of overpay for a little things because you're going to be there, But the whole point of it is you want to eventually pull some of that capital out and go get the next deal, right? But if you're saying, hey, I'm actually going to live in this thing for the next 5 to 17 years because I love the area, I love this, and I want someone else help paying my mortgage, then you can be a little bit more flexible on those things, right? So it just breaks down why it's scoring and why it's not just a simple score, right? We're just not running numbers and then that's it. We're breaking each one of these down. So, like, for example, data completeness. If you don't give a lot of this information, it scores less, right? Because I didn't give it a rent roll. If I gave it a rent roll, it would have gave me some more stuff. It would gave me more points. What helped is that I gave them a CMA, I gave them an MLS, and I gave them a rent report, right? So I gave it information to help it, but I need some of these other things to verify more stuff. Strategy fit, whether property naturally supports the intended strategy, exit alignment, right? Our goal is to mostly do BRRRR, right? And the DSCR financing at 7, like that's not really what we're trying to accomplish, right? Market support. We gave it information that helped it. At the same time, it didn't support what we're trying to accomplish. So, like, we're not going to get a full score on those things. And then risk profile, like, this is a highly risk deal because it's completely off of what we're trying to accomplish, right? We have a lot of these risks that we wasn't able to curb or, put the mind at ease for the council, right? So this is where it was. It was 12, 13, 14, 11, and 8, and that was our total score. It was 58 out of 100. Again, right, it doesn't classify as a bad property, a distressed asset, or unfinanceable duplex. It just doesn't meet the criteria that we're trying to accomplish. It doesn't meet what we're wanting to do. It doesn't meet the things that we're trying to accomplish that we shared, right? You can probably say, hey, I'm going to own or occupy. Well, okay, that understands the low cash flow, right? Because someone else is going to be paying part of the mortgage. You're going to be paying the rest of the expenses. You just want to lower it to a certain point. So if we put owner occupied in there, that would change this whole, premise of what we're trying to accomplish. But because we said we're looking for this to be a BRRRR, it doesn't meet the strategy, right? So at the end of the day, this is just used to support and to bring to your attention ways to analyze deals so that you can keep things moving forward, right? Aspire, asset address, right? What is it? What are we trying to run the numbers on? What are we trying to accomplish? S, seller situation. What is their, predicament? Is it a distressed seller? Is it a bank owned? Is it city owned? Is it an LLC who's just trying to liquidate? What is going on? P, purchase price, purchase assumption. What is their current price and what do we need to buy it for? What do we assume we need to buy it for, right? I's in for improvements and investment. What do we need to invest in this property to get it to where we think it needs to be to accomplish our goal? Rent revenue. What is the current rents? What can it be in the future if we do these improvements? What is the current value of the property and what can the ARV be after we improve it as well? And then all those things add together should give us an acceptable exit strategy so we know how to move forward and move past beyond these things. Again, this is a tool, right? This is not a be all end all because I tell all my clients once you buy that property and we close, some of these analysis goes right out the window because you either find out something when you open a wall, there's more damage there, or the roof collapse, or you have weather and something else happens, or there's a fire, right? All those things change the trajectory of what this deal was going to be, right? So, but these deals is supposed to lower the risk so that you can move forward with the deal and start building that real estate portfolio. Again, I want to thank Next Home My Way for allowing us to use their social media media room to hold our webinar, our lunch and learn, so you can learn to analyze deals on your lunch break. Because again, the individuals we go after and we are articulating with or talking to is, your mid managers, your doctors, your lawyers, your CPAs. They're individuals that, either like their job enough that they get paid enough, but also know that they need to invest in real estate, right? They know that they need the investments in real estate to live the life that they're trying to live because they need it and generate more income, right? It's just like investing in stocks. As I always tell people, the 5 things you need to invest in to build wealth is you need to invest in bonds, you need to invest in stocks, you need to invest in real estate, you need to invest in local businesses, and you need to invest in other entrepreneurs. And if you do the reverse, entrepreneurs, they build local businesses. Those local businesses need to buy real estate or rent real estate. And then eventually they got to get other investors to invest in them, which they buy stock either on the market or off the market. And then eventually they get so big that they can raise funds for bond like type acquisitions or things they're trying to accomplish, right? So again, thank you for Next Home My Way for supporting us and allowing us to put on our webinar here. And the headquarters located at 5151 South Howell Avenue. Again, Aspire Mastermind Group is going to be held here, the meeting Wednesday, 5:30 to 7:30 tomorrow. If you want to sign up, there's different ways you can do it. Aspire Standard is $29 a month. That give you access to the school and the mastermind meetups and the conversations that we're having within school. Next is the Aspire Premium, which is $147 a month. That gives you access to the education that we have within school that goes from Lion all the way to Dragon. And then Aspire VIP, which is $395. That helps you get access to all our leaders and also deals that we bring to the table to Aspire Mastermind Meetup VIP members and other mastermind leadership that we bring deals that we bring together. With that being said, thank you again for joining us. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you again for joining us. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. We'll do this next week, same time, same place. I'm Charles Clark, your real estate investment broker, here with another